right, Chem, today we're going to introduce the concept of the mole. The mole is a counting term that tells us the quantity of particles. So it's just another way to count. So if you think about a concept like that we're really familiar with is a dozen. Is we know if we have a dozen donuts, we have 12. If we have a dozen eggs, we have 12. A mole is the same thing. If we have a mole of pennies, we will have 6.022 times 10 to the 23rd pennies. And each man, woman, and child on the face of the planet could spend $1 million an hour and still have money left over at the end of their life. 1 mole of marbles is 6.022 times 10 to the 23rd marbles, and it would cover the earth 3 miles deep. So let's talk about the periodic table of the elements and how this relates. So the periodic table of the elements, we all know, tells us how many grams there are in a mole. So you've got the periodic table of the elements, and the number on top is the atomic number that tells you the number of protons that are in a particular element. The number on the bottom tells us how many AMUs there are, which are super, super, super tiny units in one atom, or it tells us how many grams there are in 1 mole. So 6.022 times 10 to the 23rd is such a huge number that oftentimes we have a difficult time understanding what the concept means. So if you have 6.022 times 10 to the 23rd atoms of carbon, it makes a tiny little pile in your hand that would have a mass of 12.01 grams. So 1 mole has a mass of 12.01 grams. 1 mole has a quantity of 6.022 times 10 to the 23rd atoms of carbon. The average mass of 1 atom is 12.01 AMUs. Those are those super, super tiny units. But if you have lots and lots and lots of atoms, or 6.022 times 10 to the 23rd atoms, you would have a mass of 12.01 grams. So we call that the molar mass, or how many grams there are in 1 mole. Let's find another one. Sulfur has a mass of 32.07 grams. So that means if you have 1 mole, you have 6.022 times 10 to the 23rd atoms, and it will have a mass of 32.07. That's our molar mass in grams per mole. Tin, which is what the Altoid containers are made of, used to have tin foil, but they haven't made that since the 60s. So that's kind of like one of those terms that for some reason has really stuck around. Has a mass of 118.7 grams if you have 1 mole, or 6.022 times 10 to the 23rd atoms of tin. Zinc is what most of our coins are made of, and you'll find it on the periodic table of the elements, and you'll see that it has a mass of 65.38 grams for 1 mole. Argon is a noble gas that we use in signs, neon signs, and light bulbs, and so on and so forth, because of the fact that it's non-reactive. It has a mass of 39.95 grams per mole. Now, oxygen, if you remember, is one of our diatomic elements, our high 7 Janine elements. That means that when you look at oxygen on the periodic table of the elements, you'll see that it has a mass of 16. But if we're talking about oxygen gas, we know that it's O2 and not just O. So in order to get the molar mass of oxygen, you will need to add up the mass of each. So 2 oxygens each are 16. We have a total mass of 32.00 grams per mole in O2. So you still have 6.022 times 10 to the 23rd molecules per mole, because it's a counting, but the molar mass is twice that, or 32. Water is H2O, so if you have 1 mole of a compound, you have 6.022 times 10 to the 23rd molecules of water. 1 mole of water has 6.022 times 10 to the 23rd molecules. It has twice that atoms of hydrogen. So you have 1 mole of water molecules contains 2 moles of hydrogen atoms and 1 mole of oxygen atoms. So in order to get the molar mass, we would add up the individual masses of the atoms that are contained in there, which is 2 hydrogens at 1.008 grams, 1 oxygen at 16 grams to get a molar mass of, when you put it in your calculator, you will get 18.016. But because our answers are in 4 digits, if you look on your periodic table of the elements, our masses are all given in 4 digits. That means that my answer will be rounded to 4 digits also, and we'll go over that later, what that means as far as significant figures. So 1 mole of water molecules has a mass of 18.02 grams. 1 mole of water molecules has 6.022 times 10 to the 23rd molecules of water. The molar mass of water is 18.02 grams.